I did talk to a few people present at the meeting, so I get what I would feel is overall. I didn't go out and talk to people. But I'd love to hear, kind of recap your positions and.
I mean, my position is to go with Chief Droney's recommendation to make Diane Wilder an acting police chief in a part-time position. One of the things, the first thing we did last week when we got to the police department is I am now the liaison to the police department.
Oh,
So since the Chief Droney had given his resignation, I had met with the police department, the chief and the police department on at least 3 separate occasions. And I guess part of that discussion is that I had a very straightforward, I told the chief, I said, I had a straightforward question, I appreciate a straightforward response. How many hours does it really take to be police chief in the town of Ashfield? And his response was, I suppose it could be 30, but for the most part it's 25. Certainly that takes care of all the administrative type duties and that sort of thing. After that, it should be police time, patrol time, that sort of thing, which gave me, it made me feel secure in the idea that, for the time being anyway, now that our policies and procedures are up to date and that sort of thing, if we feel confident in that the police chief's job right now, and in this interim period, should be something much less than full-time, 40-hour position. I'm not particularly concerned with full-time academy training. Certainly with a part-time chief position. The chief did get a hold of the legal counsel for the Massachusetts Police Chiefs Association, and that chief legal counsel had emailed him back an hour or so before our meeting and said that there was not a requirement. If the chief was part-time, even as 30 or 35 hours would be part-time chief, it is not full-time academy necessary.
Only when they cross the 40.
Only when they get to that full-time situation. So I have a lot of confidence that Diane can pull this off. One of my meetings I did have was with the rest of the police force. Chief Droney had a Friday night. He had all the officers in, and I met with them and introduced myself and talked to them and said, if you have any issues with what the chief's recommendation has been, to come and speak to me, or speak to me now, or come and speak to me. And there hasn't been any communication other than positive. I haven't really had any communication with the officers. My communications out in the public have been really endorsing, giving Diane the opportunity to do this until we come up with a long-term plan. One of the things I think I had mentioned when you were here, the last time you were here, is I hate to see this happen, but I don't think it's at a bad time, because we can work through this, the select board can work through this with the finance committee, and especially after last year at town meeting, when town meeting followed the finance committee's lead and it didn't garner as much support financially. You've got to question the need of how much police, and I think if we work that all through that channel, that'll be fine. So that's my position in a nutshell. Paulette, you have a different opinion.
bit different. It's more, for me, it's more about policy than it is about specific people or personality. We started 2.5 years ago with Wayne Sampson during a time when he came before the board, the board. None of us were on that board at the time, and highly recommended, for lots of reasons, to have a person who's, as your police chief, a full-time academy trained person. So that is the position I'm holding on to as a matter of policy, whether it's full-time working or part-time working, or the person who's the employee or the person who's interim or acting or whatever. I just think that's the place we need to be. We started on it 2.5 years ago. For me, I see the need to continue that. So my position, as we ended last week, was to be officer in charge and look for somebody that would be that part-time person for us as the acting until we figure out what we're going to do, probably by the next meeting, given our time of dealing with finances.
Can an interim position as chief or officer in charge, however that's come down, go on forever, or is there a process where you have to go out to bid or interviews? What's with that? I know Mary was interim admin assistant here for many, many years, so
Yeah.
what's the story on that?
Well, I think you would appoint it for, I mean, I wouldn't say that it paint with a broad stroke and say this would really go on forever. I think the one point that Paulette brought up that I didn't, is I also met, after we got the chief's resignation, I did stop in and get together with legal counsel.
Okay.
And she strongly recommended not to go with an acting chief instead of officer in charge because of the responsibilities. With an officer in charge, it's not really clear what the responsibilities are, and probably some of those she was afraid would come back to the board.
Yeah, in the absence...
And one of my concerns last week rather, well, that was last year, that was rambling around in my head that I wanted to make sure Donald was on board with, is that in the absence of a police chief, the chairman of the board of selectmen is the police chief. I really don't look forward to being that guy.
You don't want those phone calls, huh?
I mean, you get enough of them anyway, but, so that's where I am. So what I did is I got in here about 15 minutes early, and so I want you to bear with me on my chicken scratch, but I thought if I made this motion and I wrote it out, it would give us a good jumping off point that we could, hopefully we can find a spot to be.
Before you do that, I would like to know Ron's opinion, since he wasn't here, and last week we spent quite a bit of time.
That's right, okay.
That's the part we were missing. I told him that. Oh, your chair, be careful.
I guess I could see how Paulette would feel that way, the way she did, particularly because she's on the personnel board, and it's kind of, that's a way of thinking. I myself and my company think along those lines of policy and protocol and that sort of thing. But I'm quick, even though 2 or 3 years ago when we had significant issues in town, I think I was a supporter back then of a full-time chief, academy trained, because the issues that were facing us were crazy, just out of control. But I feel different today, and I don't want to judge today based on yesteryear's situation. It was very different, and part of that is because we had a full-time chief come in and help get us up to speed. But I don't see any reason to rush into a solution this exact second. If this evolves into something that we all kind of come together on, then I'm okay with that. I'd rather personally go with an interim position. Personally, and I said it at the meeting I was in, I supported what the chief said, because I happen to know that if you have a strong chief, it's the chief's business to run the department. I don't want to be in their shoes running the police department either as a select board, okay? So I believe in the concept of a of a chief rather than an interim officer. Okay, because interim officer puts it right back in our lap. So I tend to be in that direction. As far as Diane personally, I like Diane. I've always been an advocate of Diane's. She follows the spirit of volunteerism in this town to the letter. She's always out there doing something off the clock. I appreciate the fact that she's a woman. That means a lot to me. I don't make a decision based on that. You have to be qualified first, but I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing for this town. So I tend to lean towards the chiefs without knowledge of last week's meeting. I didn't go through the tapes. I didn't watch the videotape. But I did make a bunch of phone calls myself to some previous select board members, to some business owners, because I knew this would be a topic for tonight, to be prepared. And I get the sense that the majority is, of the phone calls I made anyways, are in favor of chief, interim, come together with the finance board and go through the budget process and take it from there, wherever there ends up being. So that's kind of my gut on it before we discuss a motion or anything like that. I tend to lean in that direction.
Do we open any doors that would make it difficult for us, that when several years ago there was a sergeant who was not put as interim police chief when there was no police chief because she was not full-time academy trained, and instead we brought in John Cotton, who worked I think 20 hours a week. So given that happened in the past, do we have anything to be concerned about when she was a sergeant?
I suppose somebody could make a case for something. I guess my position on that would be, it wasn't this board of selectmen that did it.
True.
It wasn't this board. It's not like we treated somebody one way and then we're treating them another. This
No, but
this board is a totally separate board from that is.
But the board is the employer, regardless of how many members are on it. So I recall that happened, and that's part of that 3 years ago. So
There's always lawyers looking for work, so that's a possibility. So I'm going to pass this out as a written motion because it is a little lengthy and I didn't want to be forgetting anything too much. But,
thank you. Pass it along.
Yeah, that needs some for the record.
Are you sure it went over there? Did you give away your original or something?
So, I'll read it out loud here so everybody knows what we're talking about. I move that we appoint Diane Wilder as interim acting police chief for the town of Ashfield commencing on the 7th of January 2014. I wrote down 13, didn't I? And I knew it would take me about 3 months to get this right here. Commencing on January 7th, 2014 and continuing until June 30th, 2014, or until a permanent police chief has assumed the position. This appointment is made under the following terms. The appointed position will be for a maximum of 30 hours per week at a rate of $24 an hour. The interim acting chief will work closely with the liaison from the Board of Selectmen in regards to all department issues during this period. The acting chief will have authority to engage personnel as needed up to 6 hours per week in routine administrative duties, which will allow more patrol and/or public police activities. The rate for such shall not exceed $14 an hour. So that was a motion I hope we could put on the table to open up for some discussion. That doesn't.
I'll second the motion, just to get it on the table. Have some questions?
Go for it. That's what it's out there for.
This, in my opinion, is a good start, but don't we want the finance committee involved with this? If you're saying until 6:30, we're not listening to them at all. And ultimately, we might end up here.
Well, the We are. I mean, we're still gonna be working within the budget.
That's right.
We're gonna be working within the budget that we have. We
So
have,
talking
we have
about
a
next
police, we
year's.
have police chiefs. We have the police chief's salary there. By going to the acting chief, that this payroll is $24 at a maximum of $30, that, my idea is that's gonna be paid out of police chief's salary. There's gonna be a savings there. Considerable.
Okay, I see what you're doing.
And then, since the Corporal Wilder, at this point, isn't, or officer in charge Wilder, as she is today, won't be on the police account, you know, as an officer, that would leave some money to help us doing some administrative things. What I'm trying to do is Diane Wilder has a full-time job. And I want this position to be adequate for the town, but I certainly am not looking to burn anybody out at the same time. So to have somebody that my vision is, and Diane and I have spoken, I mean, I see some routine things like, certainly the chief would do the scheduling of the officers and so forth, but do they really need to spend a couple of hours or whatever it takes every week pulling the payroll together to come upstairs to go on the warrant? Diane had an idea that just handling somebody to help handle the warrants that come in and out of town. And I think there's some of those things that are really pretty routine. If it's like any office I've ever been near, right? There's a lot of some pretty routine things that can be accomplished by somebody at a lower rate than what the chief is at.
And I trust this is an acceptable rate.
Yeah. I mean, we may have somebody to fill the position on April 1st or May 1st or June 1st. But we need to kind of work through those things. And we can't make an appointment to go beyond the fiscal year. 1st of July, we have to make all these appointments again. So this appointment would only go until the end of the fiscal year, which is the 30th of June.
I have a question. Last week when we were talking, Diane had mentioned that she works anywhere from 19 to 25 hours a week as a corporal. And then we were discussing the 20 to 25 that the chief mentioned to do, the chief's duties. Is this 30 hours per week as interim acting police chief eliminating the 19 to 25 she was doing as corporal officer, which included patrolling and all of that?
Absolutely.
Because we had a discussion about adding those two together was one at a time.
Right, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So the 19 to 25 hours a week she has been doing, who's going to be doing that?
Diane, you've
I
got some
started
ideas.
looking at resumes and I want to put out a ad, opening it up to get another officer.
So
Somebody
that
to do
different
one,
than these
somebody
6
to do 1 or 2 shifts.
Yeah, I don't feel I need them on necessarily at the same time I'm on. I want them like Friday during the day or Saturday during the day and Sunday during the day.
So is this number 3, this 6 hours, or is this
No,
6
that's
hours a different thing?
That's a different thing. What she's talking about is to have somebody take up some of her patrol time,
Okay.
that'll be charged to the
Administrative.
police officer's account that she's not going to be charged to anymore.
At the police officer rate versus the corporal rate
Correct.
that we have, okay. I wasn't sure what this 6 was part of, that's why I was asking that question.
I guess one of the questions I have with Diane is, one of your strengths has been putting a face out in the public. And is this 30 hours, I understand well, maybe I don't understand what a police chief has to do, but is it still your intention to get out and be nearly as active publicly?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. I'm not a person that can sit in an office and just stay in there. I have to be out and talk to people and have a gift to gab a little bit.
I like hearing that. Okay.
Any other questions or comments on?
Do we want to say and possibly continue? I mean, you said something about April, possibly April.
Well, it
This
says-
sounds contractually like it's going to be.
And continuing until June 30th, 2014, or until a permanent
Oh,
police chief
okay.
has assumed the position.
Oh, you fixed yours,
Okay, good.
the dates.
Yeah,
To
14, yes.
Okay. Do you want to make the motion? or-
Well, I did. I made it, and you seconded it, so it's on the table. If there isn't any other discussion, we can go to a vote.
Now, the person for number 3, the administrative duties,
Yes.
is this someone who would or would not need any kind of police experience in your estimation?
Well, we actually have someone that I'm putting forward to do that. It would be Betty Rusher. She's already active as an auxiliary in the department, and if she would accept it, I'd like to add on to her already.
We have a candidate.
You answered my question, I didn't know what qualifications you were looking for in someone to do that task.
Doesn't
What-
necessarily have to be one that is in the police department, but that's who I had in mind.
Well, Betty's an auxiliary officer, so that's good. There shouldn't be anything terribly confidential that's going to be outside of the policies and procedures. And just me describing that, is that, not that we have a real fix on exactly what the duties, but it's nothing that would scare you?
Not at all.
I mean, I understand there's a lot of people that have been trying to find something to scare you your entire life, and they haven't found it, so. So, no more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed, based on policy, not person.
Very good. So, motion passed, 2-1.
Now that it is passed, I would like to make a statement. Since she is very interested in being a police chief, I would like to see that during the budgeting process, we do whatever we can financially to try to help you get to the academy, get the full-time training. I would like to see you succeed.
I think we'll talk about it.
Yes, I'd like to see that for you.
Okay, so that takes care of the first thing on our agenda, the main thing on our agenda. Very good. Thank you. So, tomorrow, your interim acting police chief. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Charlie, we feel bad for you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, review the fiscal year 14 community development strategy. Yes. Either of you, that was emailed out last week. I glanced at it, I didn't really study it.
In all honesty. There's a
I mean, next Monday night is our hearing, right? We have to have a hearing on this block grant business, which includes this community development strategy.
I thought I saw a fairly active dialogue between Mary and MJ on that. Red line stuff going back and forth. I didn't pay specific detail.
Did you get a copy of this that Lynn just?
Yeah, that's the one actually. And I thought they were right on track with each other. I didn't have the time to go through a fine-tooth comb on it, but it seemed reasonable.
Well, I think what's really important is that by next week, we understand what it says.
Once before they came, a group, probably from FERCog, dealing with the river and I do have concerns of over-controlling what's around us, on how we use the land, whether we can have access to the water, et cetera, et cetera. That's just kind of overall reaction as opposed to each little thing being compared to and saying, oh, I don't like that piece. It just seems an awful lot of organizing when I see the words that they want to sort of manage how you use the space. That's the
I think
concern.
there's a yin and a yang to it, because I have the exact same concern that, you know, that we're putting this together to satisfy somebody on a grant, and I get concerned when it says that the town shall, instead of the town may.
A little bit like a noose around my neck, and I'm agreeing to put it there for some other purpose.
Right, and the other part of that is that, so we don't want to say that we're going to do these things, and we don't want it to be interpreted that we have to do these things.
And that we're not willing
You know,
to do
that-
some of them, because some of them we may want to.
I do believe there's some softer language. If you see some in there where we can interject some softer language, I think that's probably what needs to be done. So since I haven't read it and I haven't, and I think the original draft, from what I scanned, where Mary actually just updated the one from 2011, or yeah, fiscal year 11.
That's right.
Had that soft language in it, and I haven't checked these changes to see what's going on. I don't think we need to take action on it tonight unless you guys want to, but I think it's important before we have this hearing next week, because isn't that that'll be the 13th? And isn't it, MJ told us the 16th she has to get the package into the state. So,
I think that in defense of their language, that this becomes part of the grant process, and that the granting authority, seeing it, wants to know it has some teeth. Just some, you know, otherwise, if it's may, they might not be inclined to give the grant, you know. Maybe words like shall make the effort, you know, or something in between. Mary, I did see one thing that I wanted to bring to your attention in the meeting was we recently got from the planning board the draft of the 2013 senior housing, and it hasn't been voted on or anything like that, but if under the expanded housing opportunities on page 4, right at the top, they talk about opportunities for affordable units. You see that, right? It's like the third paragraph down, second or third, page 4. Expanded housing opportunities.
Can I understand?
And interject for a second here. If anybody's gonna turn right and walk in front of the firehouse as they leave, be extremely careful, I almost fell twice.
thank you, Peter.
To the left also.
Yeah, go straight out to the road.
Going straight to it.
Oh, me.
Yeah.
Need your grandparents.
There you go.
So do you see it, Mary?
I do.
And I think that the word should be something like the town is currently exploring bylaws enabling additional senior housing on the Main Street area, or an additional Main Street zone for senior housing, just because it shows that we're doing something.
Right, and,
Had you included that elsewhere and I just missed it?
I thought I had it in here in the pages 6 and 7, however, it should probably be up here too.
So you have it on, yeah, you do have in this page 6, in your graph under Village Center, you have the community hall in there, and then right underneath that you talk about rehab for low and moderate housing, and that you have 2 bullets in there, but I didn't see anything.
And see on page 7 it is,
the first project description that's complete there, newly revised senior housing bylaws for the creation of
Oh, okay.
senior housing. However, I think your point is well taken, that it
Just that it
belongs in the
went process.
narrative as well.
Good, because you kind of lose it in the graph there. I didn't see it, so
Yep.
that'd be awesome.
Anything you see that you want to take it now, or just?
No, I'm ready to go through it. Thank you.
Good. All right, well, we'll hit that next time. The minutes of December 16th. God, I'm glad I brought that.
I'll let you borrow mine.
I read this about a week or 10 days ago, so give me a minute just to refresh my memory. Paulette, do you have anything you have marked out?
Four little things. Does Ron have any?
I didn't have a single issue with it.
Paulette, got 2 L's at the very beginning, select board members. Sorry. It's okay.
You can add her to your dictionary so that it shows up when you're doing that.
Okay. Let's see, I'm on page 2, the David Newell paragraph, about 6 lines down. The sentence says, Dave suggested that maybe we, as a town, can purchase the fuel. I think there's a word needed in there for these Vogue vans, then eliminate the vans following that, and have them fill up at the highway department when they go by BY instead of BUY. Down in the paragraph, same page, Padroni, Lucart feels that any chief they hire should definitely be TELY.
Not defiantly.
Be full-time academy trained. I would like to eliminate in which Wilder is not. That was not the point I was trying to make. Whether she is or isn't is a different topic from just my opinion about full-time academy trained.
Where's that, Paulette? What page?
Okay, page 2. And the paragraph starts Patroni about 6
Yeah.
lines down.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Yep.
They hire should definitely be full-time academy trained, period. It was not to point out she wasn't. It was to point out my position about full-time academy training. So I'd like to eliminate that. Wasn't specifically about her.
On
my
face,
part.
I don't see a problem with that, except I do think that's what you said.
I don't think I said she wasn't. I said in my opinion was that that person needed to be. We didn't talk about her credentials per se. The point I was trying to make was not that she wasn't, but that my opinion was the person should be.
So you would put a period at the end of train.
Period. And the rest, yes. In which Wilder is not required.
I don't have an issue with that.
I wasn't here.
Yes, you were.
Oh, on the 16th.
You were. This was the 30th. This is the
Sorry.
30th. This was last year, I know.
Yeah, long time ago.
Page 4, under public comment, it says none, and then Lucart has concerns with the letter. It was an email And I'd like to add from town council, Donna McNichol. Down the road, it's not apparent to everybody, unless you knew who Donna McNichol was. Right now we do, regarding to that. I also thought it might clarify the whole thing in my concern, just to include the as a document, and it eliminates a lot of, well, what was she talking about and how come? So I printed them out and brought them on. Or I had printed it out and didn't hand it out, but it's because it says 12:30. So we could call that document 16, and then anybody looking at that can just read the email from the town council. It doesn't have anybody's names. So that would be my change, and then add it to the end as a document.
That's right. So under public comment, you wanted to change what?
Well, I wasn't a
Just
public comment per se. See, public comment is none.
Oh, right.
Separate paragraph. I brought up the fact I had concerns about the email from town council, Donna McNichol.
Oh, about being
Right,
anxious.
and this is the email, document 16. So if we just include it as a document, anybody reading it can understand why I asked the question.
That's fine.
So,
I think that's good.
But I'm confused why it says public comment none. Did you say it after the public comment? Is that why?
Yeah.
So it should be a separate paragraph.
yes,
Yes.
exactly.
It was really.
And then you're okay with leaving that in there, you just want to include it under the document list.
I wanted to change the word letter to email and
Yeah.
add town council, so in the future people would know, I mean,
Who done it?
That
Who is
makes
Donna?
sense.
and then add the document as to what I was referencing,
Yeah,
because it doesn't have any names, so I don't see any
I'm
problem.
fine with all that.
So, the document, we will make it document 16, whatever the next number was, I think it was 16.
Is there a motion?
Yep, I'll make a motion that we approve the December 16th, 2013 minutes as amended, and with the inclusion of those extra documents and the notes that we typically have.
Second?
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. All right, well, that's all I had on the agenda for tonight. It was designed to be short and sweet, and since it's only 7:39, it fulfilled both of those, short and sweet. Any other issues
How about
that we need to
liaison?
discuss?
Just a little later,
Sure.
liaison discussion. Do we have a grader yet?
Not yet. Probably another 3 weeks, maybe a month. Which is holding true to what they put on the bid.
Okay. I spoke with Donna McNichol about both the lake and the Sherry
Sherry Scott.
situation, because Ty and Bond is coming on the 15th, which is a Wednesday or Thursday, and I said, we need to get that. We need it by next Monday. So she apologized. Her mom passed recently, and she's been tied up with her estate and everything, so on and so forth. She promises to get stuff back to me by Wednesday, so I'll be forwarding to you before the next meeting her responses and such relative to the easement, access easement, and dam easement, and all those different things, because I want to be able to share with both Scott Decker and Phil Nolan before that public hearing where we kind of land on this thing, or show them a draft so they're not surprised.
We don't have anything coming from Jonna about the wall, do we? Even
About-
though Ty and Bond is going to talk about the wall
No.
and the lake?
No, nothing.
We don't need any-
It doesn't involve her. She sent us something saying that she did think it was our responsibility to maintain it, and that's what we needed from her.
Since you brought up liaison, could I add something?
Of course.
I
Are you
saw
all
the
done,
chief.
Ron?
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yep. Good.
I saw the fire chief on Sunday. They've been very busy with fires, and I did inquire. We did not have any fire personnel get injured. I was concerned that with as much ice in the water and the cold temperature, it'd be real easy to slip and fall and take on some serious accidents. But the new truck has a valve that got damaged at the rear. Do you know which valve it is?
the truck sat up there in that bit of cold weather. I mean, it ended up on the wind chill was 15 below. And the truck sat there, it didn't move, but there was water in it. And the main valve that they call from the tank to the pump, the valve housing itself cracked. So hopefully we'll have a new valve. Adele will be under the warranty, but I doubt very much if we can get it under the warranty due to the fact of it being so bitter cold and all of that. I mean, there was 2 other trucks from 2 other towns that also had problems. One of them cracked a line, just driving from the lake up there, it cracked. So, I mean, it was so bitter cold that it was just unbelievable. And the last time we had that was, most of the people sitting here remember, was the Zingler fire. It was the exact same time of year.
Which fire, I'm sorry?
Zingler's down south.
Oh, yes, it was the exact same situation.
Same situation. Our new fireman was really uptight because they couldn't put the fire out. And I said, well, it's Mother Nature once in a while, nothing we can do about it.
Is there a dry hydrant on West Road?
No, they tried to get water out of that brook, and the first truck in froze up before they got water into their pump. So they decided they better come straight to the lake. And the chief had 7 tankers making the loop around. And the only truck for a long time that could get water out of the lake was Plainfield's new vacuum tanker. That was the only truck that could get water out. They finally got, I don't know, they called it a torpedo. Don't ask me what. There was a great big thing on wheels, looked like a Bunsen burner.
Yep.
And they stuffed that underneath Savoy's truck. And it kept the pump warm so they could also fill tankers. But it was just so, too much like Zan, it was just so cold in that wind chill.
Couldn't pick a worse day. And they have 2 of them
At the same time.
same time.
We had ours in Conway, Dalton and Hinsdale had one yesterday, and Orange and New Salem had one Sunday. Matter of fact, one of our trucks went all the way to Orange Sunday to help them out.
And I think they said while the fire, New Salem was helping Orange, and New
Yeah.
Salem had to leave because they had their own
It-
fire, and they had to
it's-
just.
It was weird. I mean, poor Conway, their truck froze up here. And then they had the fire, so they even had to call more trucks in because their truck was frozen up here.
Yeah, I'm sure they couldn't pull out that brook even if they had trucks.
That was on the 6 o'clock news tonight, I saw him on TV.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Yes. I just can't tell you if it was channel 3 or 22.
But I gotta say, the Red Cross did a very good job. With everybody and the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department sent up a big canister about that high full of coffee, a whole box full of sandwiches, a whole box full of potato chips. And then 2 milk cartons, matter of fact, they're all still down there, 2 milk cartons full of the pint milk.
Oh, okay.
And they don't want none of that back.
You mean the
They want us to
crates?
carton.
You mean
Yeah,
the
the
crates?
regular milk crate, 2 of them full. And they don't want any of that stuff back except for the cartons. So there's a lot of milk, little pink milks over there. Somebody.
Well, we gotta get it off the market one way or the other.
He said he was gonna try to have a meeting sometime this week to critique the fire.
Yeah, I think it's a Wednesday night at 7:30.
Thursday.
No, it's here Thursday at 7.
So at 7 here,
In Lower Hall.
Thursday at 7.
and all the fire departments will be here. That's.
Okay. That's all I have.
Well, I've got one more thought on this fire on Saturday. And I'm not saying that it should be used, but I think when someone loses their home, that we should at least think about the money. There's quite an assortment of dollars that are available to the town that have been given for charity and welfare and, that sort of thing that can be used at the selectmen's discretion. And I think if we we just think about that and maybe get a little accounting of what we have for funds that are available to use in town.
It's a great idea.
We can make a decision.
Next week?
I mean, I don't,
A little bit of help is always nice, whatever. it
well,
is.
just think of it.
Whatever. it is.
You lose your home the same day the tax bill arrives.
You lose
If
your-
that is
Oh,
not,
and you still keep paying the tax bill.
if that is not a kick in the ass. huh?
Yes.
Cool.
All right. Anything else?
So we'll discuss that next.
Next week.
Yeah.
We can get Laura to give us a little rough draft of what we've done. Okay? All right, well, thank you very much.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. World record time, 47 minutes. by 9 o'clock. 7:47. Beautiful. Thank you. I'll be home in time.